Okay, but here's the thing, Evelyn. The fact that KICD, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, came out and said we're offering radio timetable broadcasts rather. But how effective is this for a child to be at home, listen to radio, and sort of do their learning through it? How effective is this given the times, the attention span of children?
One, we have to recognize that not all the children in the country have access to gadgets and the internet.
Yes.
So what they did in terms of putting it on radio is so that the child in Lokichogi or the child in Marsabit still gets to learn either way because they're out of school, right? We also have to acknowledge the fact that they also launched the EduTV because it's still going to stream online on TV, on YouTube and then on EduTV, which is free to air. It's so that it can reach masses of the children who are not able to access internet and a gadget. That's one thing. But then also you have to realize that different children have different learning styles. There are those audio children, there are the kinesthetic learners who have to see and write.
Yes.
And then there are the visual children.
Yes.
So you have to also take account into like looking at each child and how they retain and consume content. So it is very important because right now, not very many people also in Nairobi have access to internet, so they don't know how to use all these learning tools that have been flying around on WhatsApp.
Right.
And some children also, because of the distraction of the screen and the light, it is important for them to try and listen. You also realize that KCD is providing the national curriculum, which is CBC,
yes,
and 844, which now also is subscribed to the majority of the Kenyans. So it is something actually really, really good. I support it. I find because I'm a kinesthetic learner, the audio won't work, but the TV will because then I'm watching and I'm writing. But different children also, parents need to start understanding that right now it is important for them to look at the different learning styles that children have and concentrate on that and start picking out the things that they can harness at this moment because then you're doing one-to-one learning.
Here's the thing, Evelyn, very quickly. Let's talk about digital learning for special need kids. We are forgetting that during this COVID-19, during this lockdown, that we have kids who are special needs kids, and for them learning is different. Talk to me about that, especially from a digital point of view, and how technology can be used for them specifically, because later on, we'll actually be speaking to a parent who deals with this. She experiences it every day.
You would realize that not very many special needs children are in the mainstream school. So most of them are being homeschooled. So right now, even through our platform, we have dedicated this whole week to just teaching parents who have special learners, autism, cerebral palsy, how to just come up with certain things.
Yes.
The one very important thing is that when you're choosing a tool, you need to be able to know which spectrum your child is in because certain things within a computer triggers them. Then also, just before you even look for a digital tool, you need to be able to find out what objective your child has to meet and where they are at in their learning, so that you're not just giving them tools to learn just because you want to keep them busy. It has to have an achievable objective at the end. And there are very many tools, like right now there's a for time learning that we are really using and just sending out content for all the parents who have special need learners on just the few things that they need to do in terms of teaching their special learners. And one very critical thing for them to also understand is that menu in terms of diet is very, very important, and making sure that there's a stable and accurate timetable that they're using. Like I'll give you an example of what I'm using with my children. I don't know if you can see it.
Right? Please hold it up for us a bit more.
You can see right here, I've written break, right? And I've written break here. And then at the bottom, I think this is it. These are the life skills that I'm trying to teach my children right now. And for example, even when you have a special needs learner, something so simple as tying a shoelace is a life skill, right?
Yes.
So you need to be able to put it within a timetable to just see, okay, now we are going to do this activity. You're going to tie your shoelace. So just make sure that it is structured learning. It is just not, by the way, I'm bored, let's do this. Because then you disorient their thoughts.
Right. What role do parents have, Evelyn? What role do parents have during this time of COVID-19 to make sure that academics still continues at home? That they are not just also sitting back, relaxed, waiting for 2 weeks to pass and children are back to school? The role that parents have.
I think the conversation of having parents engaged in learning has been there for quite a while since CBC was launched.
Yes.
Because then parents tend to feel like the adults are doing the homework. At this point in time, the role of the parent is actually co-facilitator. You are facilitating what the teacher has been doing. So you have to be very conscious of the achievables that your children must have within their certain ages. And one of the things that parents need to really take keen attention to right now is anxiety levels of the children, because then we've moved them from a school setup where they were having their friends and playing certain games and having normal breaks where they would go jump up and down, to try first and talk to them about anxiety, about their feelings, about what they want, about what they're doing. And then again, harness the potential talents, because this is when you sit with your child and you're doing one-to-one, you get to start noticing that there are certain things my child loves to do and I can harness that, because then at least you will be able to see how you can potentially grow it even when they go back to school. So right now, parents need to be extremely keen with their children, manage anxiety. If possible, don't watch news, like extremely watch 24-hour news with them, because when you panic, they see the panic in you and then they also panic, because then if they're not going outside to play, they're seated in the house, you're not managing the anxiety levels. And then as much as possible, try and play the games with them. Like if your children cannot go outside, do the board games with them. And I had my props for you, Zinzi. Sure. And these are some of the things we are playing with our children, right?
Please hold it up for me. Show it to me, show it to us. Those are some of the games that you play with the children during learning. Okay.
Yeah, I can use this for mathematics. I can use this to kill time, especially when there's no electricity. I have Jenga blocks for you here. I'm using that with my 5-year-old in terms of counting and multiplying, right? Jenga blocks. We are using this for study, and we're also using this for play. So when we have a break, once they do their normal break in terms of taking a snack, we sit on the carpet and we play this, because this is their break time. When they can, they go outside and ride their bicycles, because then again, they also need to expel that energy. They also need to try and just be outdoorsy.
Right. I mean, Evelyn, it's great to see that you have those games there, sort of balancing play and learning. Let's talk about the do's and don'ts when it comes to digital learning. You already took us through one example, e.g., don't just leave your children with the internet, observe. So what are some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to digital learning, at home specifically?
Okay, number one, obviously I say that it has to be monitored screen time, right?
Yes.
Anything that your child is doing, you have to be there monitoring. One, because when most of these sites that we are using have pop-ups in terms of chat options, so you might think that your child is learning, but they're busy playing. Number two, you have to come up with objectives in what they're doing. And this is what I'm telling parents. When you're on any site, and for instance, I'm using Oxford All and Khan Academy, because that is what I found suitable for my children. I'm not using any other site. So we have classes where we are saying that today we are going to learn mathematics, and they learn it, and I get to see what they're doing. But then again, if it is something like English, tell them to write a composition. That's how they start learning how to write. Tell them to tell you the stories that they've learned from the screen time that they're using at the moment. And what I'm also using so that the children also feel like they're part of a society is I've created a WhatsApp group of friends of my children especially, and when they're coding, for instance, they're able to see each other coding, they're able to give each other challenges, and they're able to share their work. And for me, that is a good use of digital learning. And one of the tools we're using for that is Google Classroom, where then our children are able to interact, they're able to ask each other questions, and they're able to challenge each other. So they're doing things like when they're coding, they're challenging each other on what they're doing, and they're able to see, and I'm able also to help them with the work, because I'm standing behind my son and I'm telling them, okay, this is hard, try to do this.
Right.
So I'm still almost doing my business online, but I'm also helping them within a group to understand that, yes, we are on a lockdown, but that doesn't mean that we don't interact. That doesn't mean that you people don't challenge each other the same way that you challenge each other physically. So especially when you're choosing a digital learning platform, for instance, one, to know the objectives, two, get to see if you can join some of their friends so that they're able to just interact and see each other, because right now they're really stressed that they're not seeing their friends from school, they're not seeing their teachers, but through technology that is definitely possible.
All right, here's the thing, before we sort of close off this conversation, is Kenya ready for virtual learning? The reason why I asked this, we've seen what happened with the laptop project that the Jubilee government had promised us, but also we've seen Google balloons this past few days with the government sort of trying to get that 4G network out there. What more can the government do when it comes to this to make sure that Kenya can be virtually ready for learning, not just during this COVID-19, but indeed moving forward?
I think it's a good move that we are putting the infrastructure in place, because obviously that is one of the biggest problems that even people in remote areas have, the fact that they don't have the infrastructure. Also, if the ministry, and the government would now just roll out the computers, one of the very important things for us to be ready, because I don't really think we are ready, and just maybe very few cities, we are not very ready for digital learning. because we need to have digital literacy classes. Because
Right.
it's one thing for you to tell me that here's the infrastructure, here's the laptop, but then I don't know what to do with it. So we need to be able to have digital literacy trainings happening in schools so that at least educators get to know what are we going to teach our learners and what are the objectives from the learners. And I think it is a conversation that needs to really happen very fast because, again, as I said, this is where the future is going. Like right now, I'm doing a degree online and I don't need to be in Australia, but I'm going to get my degree online. So I think we need to be able to start catching pace. And if you see like other countries like Canada, they're very high on e-learning. Places like China locked for 3 months, but they were still able to deliver learning same way that we should be able to do it right now. And I think maybe if we are able to fasten our policies, for instance, and get schools installed in terms of security, because we can't just roll out these things without security, because it's
Right.
very important.
Right.
We need to be able to start having digital literacy classes for both educators and then the children.
So here's the thing, Evelyn, the fact that, okay, we've discussed the issue for the kids. You've already brought in higher learning, which I'd love that aspect. Let's talk about that for our university school-going children or kids. What can they do during this time?
Connect. I think really very many higher learning institutions right now online, which is a good thing. And obviously these are classes that actually are offered in the schools. Like if you see USIU, University of Nairobi, most of their classes are online. The thing actually, which is a problem for very many students, is access to the internet and bundles.
Right.
Because if you're using bundles, it's going to be very, very expensive. So that's why people actually start tending to go to class. But then again, remember I talked about learning styles. Very many people have different learning styles. And so if you're not a person who can learn online with so much discipline, because it also takes a lot of discipline, then you see your online learning and then you think, oh, I want to listen to some music. Oh, I want to watch a movie. The distraction is too much. So we have to have discipline when we decide this is learning hours. I'm going to get out of WhatsApp. I'm not going to log into any other platform. This is just learning. I'm going to shut down. It takes a lot of discipline for people to do that. But then again, because this is where the future is going, we need to start harnessing that kind of potential right now, even for our young learners.
All right. Okay. And then what's the role of teachers? What's the role of education experts when it comes to this? That what can they follow up with parents at home? What role can the school as well play with students at home? Talk to me about that, especially when it comes to digital literacy.
At this very moment, obviously, the biggest role for the teachers right now is to be able to curate for the correct content for their children, because then they know what the children is supposed to achieve at certain levels. So the parent and the teacher right now should be in heavy collaboration to get to understand my child is at this level and these are the things they can meet, and give them ideas. Because you see, as parents, maybe we are so rigid, and some of us did it for we really don't know how to use other tools. So the role of the teacher at this point is to give us extra ideas on, like, for instance, if it's mathematics, my child does not understand certain ways, what are the other tools that I can use to help them understand certain subjects? And when they're having problems, obviously getting them on phone and telling them, I have seen this particular curriculum that is offering a similar subject. Is it advised for us to use? So just the advice, curating content for the students and making sure that the objectives are being met. That is the biggest role the teachers have right now. And also trying to calm down the students. Because again, I might be able to talk to my students in a certain way, but if they hear the voice of a teacher telling them, breathe if this is not working, breathe. Because they interact with the children more and they also trust the children.
Right.
So I think for parents right now, if you find that your child is really struggling with very many things, if just the voice of the teacher will calm your child down, get to do that. Just call them and explain to them what is happening, and then they can settle down, because this is also new for children. It's frustrating us as parents because some of us have to work, some of us are the chefs, we are the nannies, we are everything in the house. So if the parent is really agitated, then they're not able to have a conducive environment for the child to learn. So right now, I think parents need to really collaborate with the teachers to get the students to learn. Yeah.
Evelyn, what's your closing remark? And I'd really love if you focused more so on what parents can do during this time when internet and screens and phones is literally now one of the only options that we have with the lockdown.
Right now, my closing remark would be, if you can get a basket where you can put all your portable devices, do that, because that is one of the biggest distractions, especially when you're teaching your children. But before you engage on any digital learning platform, sit down at least maybe an hour before and investigate the site and get to see if it has malware. And malware, the things that pop up, you're using something and then you start seeing you want an iPhone and something like that. That is malware. So don't engage your children on sites that have malware. Explain to them that in case they see any unhealthy content in their duration of learning, that you're the best person to come to talk to them about that unhealthy content, because you still realize that the internet, as I said earlier, it still has its disadvantages from before COVID-19.
All right.
And then also try as much as possible to minimize the learning to at least an hour a day. Let them not get hooked into the digital learning just because we are in a digital era.
Yes.
Try and help them retain content, but then again, don't put technology too much into their space at the moment, because when they go back to school, you'll have to reset all those buttons again.
All right. Thank you so much, Eve. That's Evelyn Kasina right there speaking to Citizen TV. She's an a family IT consultant, a cybersecurity expert, just telling us some of the things that we can do, the do's and don'ts of digital learning, especially right now with how COVID-19 has affected our school calendar. All right. We want to take a quick commercial break here on Daybreak. When we come back, we'll talk to Sifuna Otua. He's a teacher. We get to hear from them, but also Dr. Susan Kageshwa will also be joining us later on the show. So we still have a lot more for you. Stay with us.